What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video, and this week we are doing another side-by-side bow sight comparison of the Dailed Pruf series bow sight, but this time we are putting it up against original UV slider. In this video I will not be talking about the Mathews genuine UV slider because I do not own a Mathews bow, so I do not have one of those sights here in the studio, but if that is something that you guys are interested in seeing, leave me a comment below and I will try to work that into the schedule. Keep in mind that Ultraview has already announced, it's no longer a rumor, that they will be releasing a new sight this year. ETA is undetermined right now, but they are coming out with a sight that will be compatible with all of the other bows, not just the Mathews one. So we're obviously super excited to get our hands on that, check that sight out, and you guys already know that as soon as we do, we will be doing a full detailed review video. If you guys want to see a comparison of the new UV slider whenever it's released up against any of the sites that we've checked out this year, again, leave me a comment below or reach out to me directly and I'll try to work those into the schedule. But in this video, we're going to focus on the original UV slider, talk about the Pruf series bow sight. We'll talk about what I like about both of these sights and then talk about some of the differences, just to give you guys a high level overview of what you can expect if you are debating on picking one of these sights up this year. Now keep in mind the Ultraview UV slider is currently on sale. I believe you can pick one of these up for $4.99, which is about $100 off the MSRP price, and that covers the variety of mounting brackets that they do have available. But with that said, let's go ahead and talk about these two sights, and first we're going to talk about the differences. So starting with the differences, probably the main thing that most people are going to recognize right off the bat is the slide rail. Obviously, Dailed is known for their AES system, which stands for their angled elevation slide rail, which does give you the ability to shoot a little bit further when you're looking at some other sights. Now, in my testing with the UV slider, because they have or offer a 3-pin vertical or a horizontal pin with that bonus pin, you are going to be able to shoot similar distances with that sight because they're basically positioning that bottom pin right at the bottom of the scope housing, which is really like I said, going to give you the ability to shoot long range with both of these sights. Now the next big difference between both of these sights is the lock wheel. So with the original UV slider, they did give you the ability to either lock the wheel, roll it, or keep it locked and still be able to override that lock and move that scope housing up and down, which is nice for a hunting situation because if you forget to unlock it, you're not going to have to worry about accidentally stripping the sight out. Now the Pruf does not really give you that option. You can adjust the tension of that lock, so if you go like halfway, you'll still be able to roll it, but most people are going to probably run this sight either locked or unlocked. If you have it completely locked out, you will not be able to budge this sight. So if you're hunting with it and you want that ability to, you're just going to have to leave it slightly unlocked or put that lock in the halfway position. And then, like I said, it will require a little bit more effort, but that's the same on the UV slider, but you will be able to rotate the wheel at that point to move that scope housing up and down. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is the differences between the micro adjust, and Dailed really upped their game this year when they came out with the Pruf. I really think that they did an outstanding job on this. We've talked about this a couple times on some of the other videos, most recently the HHA Nitrix, where we did a comparison to the Pruf, but Dailed has basically, they've got a wheel right on the front which you're going to utilize to unlock that sight, and it's going to allow you to make those left and right adjustments. When you tighten that knob back down, it basically compresses this whole system or sandwiches together, making it very robust, very durable. They're also providing you with a set screw on the bottom of your windage adjustment that's going to really allow you to lock that out and ensure that it's not going to move on you. Now if I compare that over to the UV slider, I like what UV did with this. Basically, your windage adjustment knob is located right here on the side of the roller wheel. It's integrated in, but it's very defined, very easy to get this set up, very quick to make adjustments. You definitely have a very wide range of adjustment on both of these sights, so depending on the bow that you're shooting with, you're not going to have to worry about running out of left to right adjustments. Now, when it comes to the dead stop on both of these sights, with the Dailed Pruf, you're going to just ensure that your angled elevation configuration slide rail is all the way at the top range, and then you have all this adjustment range to move the scope housing up and down to zero in your 20-yard mark. With the original UV, you do not have that option. You are basically going to utilize your roller wheel to figure out where your 20 is. I had this set up for a hunting configuration, so I was at that time I was running a 418 grain arrow, so my bow was a little bit on the faster side. And as you can see, I did have to move the scope housing down quite a bit to figure out where my 20-yard mark was. Like I said, not having a dead stop, originally it was something that I always preferred to have on a sight, but the more I used the original UV slider, the more I realized that I was not actually adjusting my sight in a hunting situation. You obviously just want to make sure that when you get set up to make a hunt, that you just want to verify that you didn't accidentally cruise past that 20-yard, just to ensure that obviously your pins are lined up where you think they're going to be lined up. Now, another big difference on both of these sights is the Dailed Pruf this year did come out with a independent first axis adjustment, whereas the UV slider, it does have an independent third axis, but your first and second axis are not independent from one another. I did obviously use this sight quite a bit throughout the hunting season. Last year, didn't have any issues with it, but personally, I do like the option of having an independent first and second axis like you do have on the Pruf series bow sight. Now next, let's shift over and talk about the scope housings on both of these sights, and both of them are very different from one another. The Pruf is a little more compact, definitely a great size, because I do feel like you are probably getting the best sight picture out of any of the sights that I've tested out over the years, but you also get a really good or clean sight picture with the UV slider. Obviously this scope housing is a little bit bigger. You almost get like a hallway kind of effect. And then obviously with the Ultraview sight, one huge benefit of this sight is the ability to swap out your cartridges. So you can go from any type of pin configuration. You can go to a single pin, double pin, 3-pin. You can go to a horizontal with a bonus pin, all with this same scope housing. Whereas if you buy say a Dailed Pruf and a vertical pin setup, you do have to buy a completely different scope housing, and I think those scope housings go for about 250 bucks, where you can buy a cartridge off Ultraview for roughly about 40 bucks. So in that regards, it's definitely a super nice sight, because like I said, they do give you the ability to customize it at a very low cost. Now, another huge benefit of the Ultraview, and something that I've talked about quite a few times on this channel, is their integrated light kit. I feel like their light kit, they do better than anyone on the market. It comes with the sight. It's not something that you have to pay for, and it does give you the ability to turn it on. It also has an auto memory, so whatever the last dim or brightness setting that you put the sight on, it'll automatically return to that. It also has an automatic shut off, so if you leave it on for 5 minutes and forget to turn it off, you're not going to completely burn through your battery. Like I said, they do it better than anyone in the market. And then when compared over to the Dailed Pruf series bow sight, they do offer a light kit, but you do have to buy it as an accessory. It is roughly about 60 bucks. And then you'd be able to add that to your sight. Now, as far as like changing the dimness or brightness of your sight or your pins without the light kit, Dailed has the ability to just have this slide cover, so you shut it to dim the pins, open it up to let more light into your fibers, whereas the UV slider, they do not give you the ability to dim those pins out or brighten those pins. And kind of leading into that, we'll talk about pin brightness, because I know that this is probably one of the biggest complaints that the original UV slider had received, was their pin brightness. Now their pins, keep in mind, they are offered in a 15 thousandths, which comes standard, and they are on the dim side. They're not nearly as bright as the Dailed Pruf series bow sights, but like I said, keep in mind, I am running this in a 19 thousandths, so I don't have a comparable pin size on the Dailed Pruf. I just know when I was running this sight throughout the hunting season, if it was early in the morning or getting towards the tail end of legal light, you 100%, at least for me, had to utilize that light. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about as far as differences is the UV slider. I really like the option that they give you with completely removing the scope housing, giving you the ability to not only clean it out, but also keep it in a safe spot when you are traveling on a destination hunt, whereas on the Pruf series bow sight, you don't have that option. For me, it's not a huge selling feature anymore, because I run both of these sights in a pick mount, but if I was shooting a Matthews bow, that is something that I do really like about this sight, because obviously the more you take that sight in and out of the bridge lock, you run the risk of accidentally stripping out that bridge lock screw. Whereas if you have the ability to completely remove the scope housing from your sight, it's no longer an issue. Like I said, being that I'm running a pick mount, I don't have to worry about that anymore. Now next, let's kind of shift over and talk about what I like about both of these sights. And we've kind of already talked about it as we're going through some of the differences. But the Pruf series bow sight has been a sight that I've had on my bow since I set up my Mach 33 this year. So probably about January time frame. And I think that they did an outstanding job on this sight. They definitely came to the market with some massive upgrades over the Arxos to address some of the common complaints that they were receiving from consumers. I think them coming to the market with the first, second, third axis adjustment was a game changer for them. I think also redesigning the micro adjust and how this all compresses to increase the durability of this sight was also a huge improvement. And then one of the biggest things that I liked about the Dailed Pruf series bow sight, and if you guys have an Arxos, you already know this, but there was definitely a little bit of slop in the system as you would start to rotate that wheel. For me personally, I'd have to like cruise past the number to kind of go back to that number, if that makes sense. So like cruise past 40, go back up to 40 to remove that slop in the system. Whereas the Dailed Pruf series setup does not have that anymore. They definitely have tighter tolerances on this sight, and definitely, like I said, had a lot of improvements and a lot of design changes. Also, another big improvement that I really like about the Pruf series is they did remove those adjustment screws that were on the original Arxos. If you ran those too light, you could basically push on the slide rail and it would completely move your scope housing up and down. And then also, the more that you shot that sight, those screws would back out over time. So it is something that you would have to continuously adjust. And then obviously just the color options, giving you the ability to customize the configuration to your liking is all a huge benefit. And then moving over to the UV slider, spent a lot of time on this sight before I kicked out my initial review video because I really wanted to test it out. It was new to the market, and UV definitely did a lot of things really well with this sight. My only complaint about this sight was the pin brightness, but having the integrated light kit and hunting in states that allowed me to run a light kit, it wasn't so much of a concern for me. One of the best things that I loved about this sight right from the rip was just the location of the roller wheel, just how fluid it was, just how easy it was to get your scope housing up and down, the location of the lock, having it in that position, not having to ever take your hand off of the sight. I really feel like they came out with something new that had not been addressed in the hunting industry at that time. And then also the ability to just customize this sight with the various pin cartridges was also something that I really liked about this sight. You can swap out between their large scope housing, go to the small one. You can get the various cartridges they offer, really allowing you to have one sight that kind of does all. Another thing, and we kind of already touched on it, but the light kit, I brag on UV about this all the time. They do it better than anyone in the industry, and I love that it's integrated, and I love that it is just super simple to turn it on. It's got those auto recall memory features, and you don't have to worry about accidentally killing your battery. Other than that, I think they just did an all-around stand-up job on this. I'm very excited to see what UV brings to the market with the new setup. I do, in my opinion, I'm not 100% sure, but I do have a feeling that it's going to be very similar to what we saw on the Mathews Genuine UV Slider. And if that is the case, if I am correct in that, UV is definitely going to bring some very steep competition to the market. But I'm also very curious to see what their price point is going to be. If it falls in line with the original UV Slider, then I think that that's a bonus for them. If it comes in around the same price point as the Mathews Genuine UV Slider, then I would expect a little bit of kickback from consumers, because obviously a lot of people had complaints about that price tag on the Mathews Genuine UV Slider. But we'll have to see. Hopefully we get some updates in the coming weeks or months on what the release date is going to be, what features are going to be rolled out with that new sight. And then, like I said, as soon as we get our hands on it, we will be doing a full detailed review video going over that new sight that they're going to come to the market with. But that's going to be it for this video. If you guys have any other questions, leave me a comment below. Reach out to me directly on Instagram. I'm always happy to help. And until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you guys on the next one.